The end depends upon the beginning, so pour a libation to Hestia. A child of the immortals offers fire to the immortals. O blessed Hestia, mistress of fire and light, flesh of my soul, bring into my home your divine fire. Let my house partake of your wisdom, love, and power. O blessed Hestia, be welcome in my home. Alright, I hope everyone is having a fantastic week. I know I'm ready for the weekend. But depending on when I get this video out, Desmophoria may have already passed, but if not, what do you have planned for it? And if it has passed, what did you do? But moving on, why do we give offerings to the gods that are of no use to them, but may nourish our own bodies? That is the purpose of this video pertaining to chapter 16 of On the Gods in the World, and a sort of continuation of the previous chapter. So when we look at the role of sacrifice, it is important to realize that at the very core of the practice is the acknowledgement that everything we are in possession of comes from the gods. This pertains to food, our prosperity, and the health of our own bodies. These things are seen as blessings. Coming to that understanding is why we give sacrifices such as the first fruits, the first portion of our meal, the first sip of wine, back to the divine, since it is through the divine that we attain these gifts. The very idea of giving the first portion of what we receive, whether it be from our meal or that of our first fruits, shows our humility and recognition of the gods. By us dedicating the first portion of what we would partake of to the gods, we express our appreciation as well as affirm the belief that we are the stewards of these gifts, not the owners. The act of giving back the first or better of what we have is one way that we are able to connect to the gods, by acknowledging that the gods are the true source of all abundance. Furthermore, sacrifices remind us that gratitude and humility are essential. By giving a portion of what we have, we are able to fight against the tendency of greed. This also encourages a mindset of reverence upon the higher power, as well as reinforce the value of respect, honor, and sacredness of life. For this purpose, sacrifices should not be viewed as transactional, but deep symbolic acts of devotion, which should be carried out with the greatest of care, no matter how small the sacrifice is. When it comes to the traditional offerings of the first fruits, it is seated in a spiritual understanding that all that we possess is ultimately received from a divine source. By recognizing this, we return a portion of these blessings to the gods in the form of offerings. Giving the first and best of what is received, we demonstrate our reverence, gratitude, and acknowledgement of the gods. This is not simply a physical offering, but also a symbolic gesture of consecration. The first fruits represent the purest and most valuable portion of our possessions. This can be the first harvest, the finest portion of a meal, or simply a cherished item. By us giving this portion to the gods, we are giving thanks, but also sanctifying the remainder of what we have in our possession. The act of offering the first fruits serves to be a reminder of our dependence on the divine for all the aspects of life. Within our world, it is easy to get caught up in human effort, which can lead to success and abundance, but the ritual of giving a portion of that success is a humble acknowledgement that while we may perform the work, the ultimate source of what we achieve lies beyond our sole efforts. The gods, being the true providers, and by giving these offerings is our recognition of this greater order. We may also honor the gods through the adornment of our bodies. These ornaments may be in the form of jewelry, clothing, or symbolic markings to serve as a physical manifestation of our reverence and devotion to the gods. This brings to my mind what was once highly controversial but highly accepted in Western society today, tattoos. But regardless of how one does this, adorning yourself in ways that signify our connection to the divine, we elevate our bodies from simple mortal vessels to temples of the divine. This is not about vanity or displaying oneself, but rather showing a visible representation of inner spirituality and dedication to one's gods. But beyond the adornments of the body, life all by itself is honored and elevated through sacrificial acts. As material offerings, like food, drink, and other items, signify gratitude, the sacrifices of life are seen as the ultimate expression of devotion. Within the ancient traditions, these sacrifices would range from the giving of animals to more symbolic acts of self denial. These sacrifices are representations of profound commitment since they require the giving up of something deeply tied to our very existence. The sacrificing of life emphasizes the sacred nature of life itself and demonstrates that very aspect of our being, whether it be physical, emotional, or spiritual. It belongs to the divine and is offered back in recognition of the blessings that we have received. This shows that sacrifices, when viewed in a broader sense, go far beyond simple ritualistic offerings. They embody the principle that the highest level of devotion involves not just what you possess, but who you are. To give a sacrifice is to offer up a small piece of oneself, one's time, one's effort, and even one's lives, all in the pursuit of a greater spiritual purpose. It is through spiritual sacrifices that we express our willingness to transcend our personal desires. Moreover, by giving sacrifices, they add to prayers, meaning and substance. Giving of sacrifices help give weight to our prayers, accompanying our words with actions. With this alignment of word and deed, it is believed that the gods respond to not just the verbal petitions, but to the sincerity found within the heart, which is shown through the sacrifice. Within this sense, sacrifice transforms the prayer from a simple request into an elaborate and profound exchange, where the individual takes a greater part in the divine relationship by offering something of real value. Therefore, regardless of whether it is the adornment of our own bodies or the giving of sacrifices, both physical and symbolic, we are honoring the gods in a way that transcends simple verbal expressions. These are actions that demonstrate one's devotion, and through such gestures, we may elevate our existence into a living and walking prayer that is meaningful and aligned with the order of the cosmos. By combining prayers with the act of sacrifice, we can be sure that our connection to the gods is not solely intellectual or emotional, but solidified in real and tangible acts of faith. When we accompany our prayers with sacrifices, they surpass simple verbal expressions and transform into what may be described as animated words. These words carry life and substance and are infused with the vitality and sincerity of the subject making the offering. Sacrifices, within this sense, breathe life into prayers and transform them from simple spoken requests or praises into acts of communication with the gods. These acts of sacrifice signify that the words uttered in prayer are not some casual plea, but a sincere offering that reflects upon a deeper level of commitment and connection to the gods. In this manner, the words in the prayer are given life and empowered with the energy and devotion of the one who speaks them. As words can be a reinforcement of life, they also articulate our experiences, hopes, and spiritual desires. They give form to the intangible aspects of our existence. However, it is the actions taken throughout our lives, our sacrifices, and the experiences we live that give the words true power. It is life that animates the words and gives weight and meaning to them. Without genuine action or the clear intent, our words can easily become hollow and meaningless. But when we apply our words to our sacrifices and our intentions, they are able to bridge the gap between us and the gods. The relationship between our words and life is important to understanding the power of both prayer and sacrifice. When words are supported by life through our sacrifices and meaningful actions, They become more than simple expressions. They become capable of affecting changes within both the spiritual and material worlds, just the same as when life is animated by prayers and intention. It is elevated beyond the mundane. It becomes a manner for divine interaction, where every action and sacrifice gains significance because it is joined by the words that articulate their purpose. When these are combined, they form a cohesive whole where they reinforce and animate each other. This creates a spiritual synergy that strengthens both the individual and their connection to the divine. So let's look at the concept of perfection and happiness as a central role. The happiness of any single being lies within its proper perfection, or its ability to fully realize its inherent potential. In this context, the perfection of words is found within their animation by our life, sacrifices, devotion, and actions, while the perfection of life is achieved through the articulation of its purpose and connection to the divine through words. A single prayer, when spoken with true and genuine intent and accompanied by our sacrifice, reaches its proper perfections by becoming a full act of devotion. Just as a life that is lived with spiritual awareness, whose actions are imbued with meaning and purpose through prayer, attains its own happiness by fulfilling its higher purpose. Within this manner, the perfection of each and every aspect of existence, including words, actions, or life itself, is linked with its alignment to the divine order. Just as the happiness of a plant is found within its growth and ability to bear fruit, the happiness of the musician can be found in the harmony and beauty of their music. The happiness of a human being is found in the harmonious integration of their prayers, sacrifices, and actions. This harmony brings about spiritual completeness in which every aspect of existence supports and perfects the other. Therefore, the act of prayer, when it is accompanied by sacrifice, is able to reach its fullest expression, and life, when it is animated by true and sincere words, may become more than just a series of actions. It becomes a meaningful life journey towards spiritual fulfillment. The happiness of both is found within their union, wherein words and life together bring about a state of harmony and connection to the gods. Through this interaction, the individual experiences spiritual happiness and fulfills their role in the grand order of the cosmos. The concept of perfection can only truly be fully understood when considered alongside its cause. In a spiritual sense, the cause of perfection is the divine, the ultimate source from which all perfection flows. Since all things obtain their being from the gods or higher powers, they journey toward a state of fulfillment that mirrors this divine nature. This is the reason that we pray to be conjoined with the gods, not only for material benefits or our general well-being, but for a deeper spiritual union with the source of life. The longing that is expressed in our prayers is a reflection of the soul's desire to return to its origin, to be in harmony with the divine essence from which it came. Now, given that life in its most perfect form primarily exists within the gods, it is reasonable that human life in itself is inherently incomplete and seeks union with the divine, although it possesses its own type of vitality. Human life, which is bound by limitations such as mortality, ignorance, and material concerns, always strives for something higher. This striving is a reflection of a fundamental truth that the human soul is not content with merely existing at its own level. It yearns for a connection to the life that transcends it, the life that subsists within the gods. This desire for a union with the gods reflects the belief that the highest form of life is one that participates in the divine life, a life characterized by wisdom, immortality, and unchanging perfection. Sadly, however, this union is not able to occur directly because the nature of mortal life is so vastly different from that of the divine. Our mortal lives are rooted in the material world, subject to change, decay, and imperfection, where the gods are eternal, unchanging, and perfect. The immense difference between these two forms of existence makes it impossible for them to unite without some form of intermediary, just as two opposing elements are not able to mix without a medium. So it stands to reason that human life and divine life require something to bridge the gap between them. This need for a medium is central to the process of spiritual progression and the practice of devotion. The medium that oversees this union between mortal life and the gods is often found in spiritual practices, rituals, and intermediaries such as prayers, sacrifices, and even divine beings who act as bridges between the two realms. Through these practices, the human soul is over time elevated and purified, preparing it for union with the divine. Therefore, sacrifices, for example, are not just acts of offering, but serve as transformative rituals that act to align the human life with the divine order, creating a pathway for the soul to ascend toward the gods. In the same manner, prayers, when accompanied by sincere devotion and action, act as the connective thread that binds us to the divine, making the union possible. The existence of intermediaries between us and the gods is a fairly common concept seen in many different traditions. These beings exist between the human and divine realms, possessing qualities that reflect both human limitations and the perfection of the gods. They help to bridge the distance between the two natures, guiding the human soul toward its ultimate goal, that of union with the divine. These intermediaries embody the principle that two natures which are far different from each other cannot be directly conjoined. Rather, a gradual process of elevation and transformation is necessary. Now, within this framework, the medium plays an important role because it allows for the possibility of spiritual ascent and progression without overwhelming the human soul. Without this mediating force, the gap between human life and the divine life would be too expansive to overcome. The medium ensures that the process of union is one of growth and transformation, where the human life is slowly drawn into closer harmony with the divine, rather than being abruptly thrust into a state for which it is unprepared, which can also lead to serious problems. Ultimately, the desire to be joined with the gods reflects the soul's innate longing for its proper perfection, which can only be achieved by reconnecting with the divine cause of all life. The medium serves as the bridge that allows this union to occur, whether it is through ritual, prayer, sacrifice, or spiritual beings. Through the medium, human souls are gradually elevated, enabling it to participate in the divine life and in doing so, attain its highest potential and perfection. In order for any connection between two vastly different natures to occur, the medium that facilitates this connection must share similarities with both, which enables it to bridge the gap. This principle applies especially to the relationship between human life and the divine, given that the goal of human life is to be conjoined with the divine. The medium through which this union occurs must have qualities that reflect both the human and the divine. Within this context, life itself must serve as the medium, for only through a form of life can the different expressions of life, both mortal and divine, be brought together. Life, while in its human form, is bound by the limitations of mortality, change, and imperfection, yet within its finite existence there is a spark of the divine, a reflection of the higher, eternal life that exists in the gods. This spark represents the potential for human life to ascend toward the divine. However, for this to happen, a medium that shares in the nature of both human and divine is required. This is why the medium must necessarily be life itself, or more specifically, a form of life that participates in both realms. It cannot be inanimate or solely intellectual. It must be a living, dynamic process that resonates with both the human desire for growth and the divine state of perfection. This medium of life is often embodied in practices that reflect a living connection to the divine, such as rituals, sacraments, and acts of devotion. These practices are not static, but are animated by the intentions and life force of those who perform them. By engaging in these life-affirming acts, the individual is drawn closer to the divine, not only in spirit but in action, as these rituals embody the living relationship between the mortal and immortal realms. Through the repetition of these practices, the human life becomes more aligned with the divine, gradually elevating itself toward the perfection that exists in the gods. The necessity of life, being the medium of life, is also a reflection of a deep metaphysical truth that the divine life, while in its perfection, is not distant or inaccessible, but is, in fact, the source of all life. Mortal life, while it is extremely different, originates from this divine source. The task of spiritual growth is therefore not one of creating something new, but of rediscovering the original connection to the divine life from which human existence originates. The medium of life acts as a pathway in which this reconnection can occur, allowing the human soul to gradually ascend toward the divine. In addition, the idea of life as the medium highlights the importance of vitality and engagement in the process of spiritual ascent. It is not simply enough to just intellectualize the divine, rather, one must live in a way that reflects this connection. Through actions, choices, and the way one conducts their life, the individual engages in the dynamic process of uniting with the divine. Every aspect of life becomes part of this medium, whether through devotion, ethical living, or acts of compassion. It is by infusing daily life with the divine intention. The medium of life actively facilitates the soul's transcendence towards higher spiritual realities. In an ultimate sense, the idea that life must be the medium of life places an emphasis on the concept that the union between human and divine life cannot occur through passive or lifeless means. It requires a living connection, one that is animated by the vitality of both realms, whether through spiritual beings' practices or the individual's own actions. The medium that unites these two forms of life must itself be alive, dynamic, and capable of transforming human life during its journey toward divine perfection. Through this medium, the vastly distant natures of human and divine life are gradually brought together, enabling the soul to reach its ultimate goal of union with the gods. Now, for a more controversial topic, the act of sacrificing animals has been a practice deeply rooted in human spirituality across many different cultures, particularly among those seeking happiness and favor from the divine. In both ancient societies and certain groups of the present day have viewed animal sacrifice as a powerful and necessary medium to establish a connection with the gods. This practice stems from the concept that life, especially in its most animate forms, holds a sacred and great power. By offering the life of an animal to the gods, worshippers aim to present something that mirrors the vitality and sacredness of the divine life itself. Therefore, the life of the animal becomes a conduit, a medium that connects the mortal realm with the higher divine realm of the gods. Within the ancient world, the sacrifice of animals was viewed as a profound act of devotion, one that demonstrated both gratitude and reverence towards the gods. Animals were and are still regarded as valuable offerings because they possess life, which is considered the most precious of all things. By offering the life of an animal, the ancients believed they were providing a part of the natural world back to the divine source from which all life originated. This act of returning life to the gods symbolizes a desire to be conjoined with the divine life. The thought process behind animal sacrifice is also tied to the ancient understanding of the interconnectedness of life. Just as human beings seek to attain a higher state of existence by being conjoined with the divine, the offering of an animal was seen as a step in this chain of spiritual ascent, as the life of the animal is still sacred but not as elevated as a human life. The animal, because it is a living being, served as a symbolic intermediary between human life and divine life. Its sacrifice was believed to purify the human soul, drawing it closer to the gods by virtue of offering a life force. a medium capable of bridging the gap between mortality and immortality. In our modern times, though the practice of animal sacrifice has become extremely taboo and is largely diminished in many parts of the world, some traditions still maintain it as an important part of their religious tradition. For these practitioners, the offering of an animal remains a way to honor the gods and ensures that their lives remain blessed and protected. They view the act as part of a long-standing tradition that echoes the practices of their ancestors, who understood the importance of maintaining the sacred relationship between life on earth and the divine forces that govern it. For those who do continue the practice of animal sacrifice, it is a reminder of the interconnectedness of all life and the necessity of making offerings to the divine in exchange for continued well-being and happiness. Animal sacrifices, when performed by the ancients and still some present-day practitioners, are not acts carried out haphazardly or without extreme careful thought. These sacrifices were conducted and are conducted in a manner that is extremely meticulous and accommodated to each god, representing the unique nature and attributes of the deity being honored. As depending upon the god being sacrificed to, it required different forms of offerings, reflecting the specific relationship between the worshippers and the divine being. Each sacrifice was tailored not only to the nature of the god, but also to the cultural and religious context in which it was being offered, ensuring that the ritual maintained its sacred significance. These distinctions highlight the deep understanding and reverence that ancient people had for the divine order, recognizing that each god played a distinct role in the cosmos. But I think that is enough to suffice to talk of animal sacrifice and conclude this video. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Also, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and you can join the Echoes from the Temple Discord server for free. All the links are in the description below. Hope to see you all there, and until next time, Salate.